Episode 16 of Common Knowledge. We are starting the week out right. Hopefully. Let's click this random and see what our card is. Any minute now. There we go. It's Bulwark Giant, which is 5 and a white for a 3/6 giant soldier. And when it enters, you gain 5 life. That's not very good. Life gain strategies are pretty good in like not so much life gain strategies exactly, but gaining life on creatures entering the battlefield is pretty good in Pauper, just to try to keep the aggressive decks at bay. And the problem is, if that aggressive deck is going quickly, you will never get to the 6 mana to cast this card. I mean, it's also 3/6 for 6. It's not amazing stats, but there are Pauper cards that cost 1 and a white, and you put it out, and it gains you 4 life when it comes into play. And it's like a 2/2, might be like a 1/2, 2/1, something like that. But that's much more efficient life gain for its mana cost, and people put that in the sideboard. They don't put this in the sideboard. I like the art. I like a big shield, but this is not going in any of your decks. It's really bad. It's really bad. I'll give it a 1.2, and we will continue on. Man, internet's a little bit slow. Molten Blast is 2 and a red for an instant. You get to choose one. Molten Blast can do 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker, or you can destroy target artifact. It's from Zendikar Rising, and it's fine. It's fine. I mean, you either get a shatter or you get a shock that can't go face. And also, there aren't any Pauper playable planeswalkers, so this really only does 2 damage to a creature. 2 damage to a creature for 3, not very good at all, because this is still a format that you can play Lightning Bolt, which is 1 red mana for 3 damage anywhere. So you just play that. And I mean, it's nice that it can destroy an artifact, but in Pauper, you either want to exile an artifact, so you can exile those artifact lands that get played so often, or you need it to be a lot cheaper than this. and probably you need it to be even more modular and cheaper. And this card just doesn't cut it. It probably worked just fine in limited, and it just goes to the forgotten place of Pauper. It's kind of sad that there are formats that there's a whole format where commons are the only thing you can play, and still this common goes, nope, too bad. We don't want it. It's not good enough for our format that only uses common cards. Pretty rough. I'll give it a 2.4 for trying, and we'll continue on to Huatli's Final Strike, which is 2 and a green for an instant that says target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So it's a bite effect, but you get an extra point of power on it before you do it. This costs too much, similar to the last card. There's a lot of bite effects that are either 2 mana, but you don't get the point of power, or even 1 mana, but it's at sorcery speed and you don't get the point of power. And while yes, this card gives you more, this costs a little bit too much for essentially kind of like a combat trick. It's not really I mean, you could use it as a combat trick, but the beauty is you can kind of use it anytime, anywhere. And it's nice, but costs too much. You won't play this. There's just other effects that you'd play over it. So we'll give it a 2 Man, the last one we gave it 2.4. Is this has to be in the same neighborhood, right? I'll give it a 2.5. It's a little better than the last card, but honestly not by much. Mon's Goblin Raiders. Oh man. Mon's Goblin Raiders. Well, yeah, I think this 4th edition art's those are my Goblin Raiders right there. Any other Or let me see the other prints here. Just those 2 arts. Which makes some sense because it's a it's a single red mana for a 1/1 goblin. That's it. That's it. And that's certainly not good enough these days in Pauper or basically anything else at this point. Yeah, it just doesn't go anywhere. It's a fun card from Magic's history, but a 1/1 for 1. I guess it's better than some of the things that it could be. You know what? I'll save it from being a straight 1 by giving it its power and toughness, and I'll say it's a 1.1. Poor Mon and her Goblin Raiders. Extinguish is our next card. It is 1 and a blue for an instant that says a counter target sorcery spell. It was originally from Portal Second Age, where it was also a sorcery, because the Portal sets did not have instants. But it look at how much more text it has in the Portal one, because you have to say, well, hey, this is a sorcery, but you can actually play it at instant speed, and we have to explain what instant speed is, and all it does is counter a target sorcery, which is more useful in the Portal the Portal sets because your opponent can only have sorceries as well. So even if they are playing a sorcery that could be played at instant speed, you get to play a sorcery that can counter that at instant speed. When you put this back in a regular deck or a regular set like Starter 99, you make this an instant instead of a sorcery, it's a lot weaker. There is a card that gets played in Pauper in sideboards, and I forgot the name of the card, but it's a single blue mana that counters a target sorcery. And so you play that over this, and you certainly don't need 8 of those effects. You'd rather just play more broad counter spells than that, but they're this effect does get played in Pauper, but not at 2 mana. And just for me, I'm going to take a look at this Portal 3 Kingdoms. Oh, look at that. Look at that. You got Kong Ming over there. I think that's Kong Ming. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's Zhou Yu. I'm not sure. Man, Portal 3 Kingdoms. That's why this one costs $1.30, and the rest of them cost less than that quarter. Yeah. Not a great card. We'll give it a 2.8. If we found the one that only costs 1 mana, that ends up getting like a 5.5. So if we ever get there, you'll see what that 1 mana means. Canopy Gorger is 4 and double green for a 6/5 worm. That's it. Man, as a guy who loves Crawworm, which is 4 and double green for a 6/4, makes me sad that they've just made a card that's better than Crawworm. Like completely better than Crawworm in every way. Well, in one way, which is enough. Which is enough because Crawworm still has nothing over this card. That extra point of toughness. Man, I do love worms though. One of my favorite creature types. I have a mono green worm commander deck, and I love it to death. I love those big long boys. But this card sees no Pauper play. It's just vanilla, and it's not good enough. So we'll give it a sad 2.3. Yeah. It's probably not even a 2.3. It's probably lower than that, but I love my worms. What can I tell you? Let's keep going. Thrill of Possibility. Here we go. Here's a pretty good card. So it's 1 and a red for an instant that says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, discard a card, and you get to draw 2 cards. This is solid. You'll see a lot of these kinds of effects played in Pauper. Generally, they've made enough good ones, enough better ones than this, that Thrill of Possibility doesn't get played as much. You'll find things like Grab the Prize, or even Laughing Mad, or Melded Moxite. All of those are from relatively recent sets. Those just have a little bit of extra gravy on them, whether it's doing a little damage to the opponent or leaving an artifact on the table or having flashbacks so you can use that effect again. All of those things are generally better than what this card does. What this card does have that most of the other ones doesn't is instant speed. Most of these effects are sorcery speed, so it's kind of cool to have one that you can play at instant speed. The issue is that the reason you're playing most of these kinds of effects is because you're discarding a Sneaky Snacker into the graveyard. And Sneaky Snacker says when you draw your third card of a turn, you get to bring Sneaky Snacker back from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And if you have 4 Sneaky Snackers in your graveyard, then you get to bring in 4 Sneaky Snackers. Isn't that great? So the instant speed of this doesn't matter as much because you want to play these on your turn because you've already drawn a card for turn. So you get to draw the one free, and then when you play this, you'll get to draw 2 more cards, and that's 3. So the instant speed, while generally you'd say that any card with instant speed is better than its equivalent at sorcery speed. And that's true, except that you're almost never going to be playing this at instant speed. You'll just play it at sorcery speed anyway. So it having instant speed access doesn't really net you enough benefit. That being said, you could still play it in a less traditional sense, that you can play it at the end of your opponent's turn, put the Sneaky Snacker in the graveyard, draw a couple cards, maybe you get something else that gets to put the Sneaky Snacker back in play, or you don't even worry about the Sneaky Snacker at all. Maybe you just have other things to do and you're just using this for not card advantage exactly, because you're playing this and discarding a card and drawing 2. You're coming out card neutral on that, but you get to filter cards better that way. So it's fine. I think this is like a 4.7, whereas it could totally go in a Pauper deck. You wouldn't blink twice at it, but you probably would wonder, well, why aren't they playing one of the better ones at sorcery speed? Why'd they do that? Still a good card though. Good in many formats. Play this in Commander. Play this in Standard. It's a solid card. You won't be disappointed. Prize Fight is 1 and a green for an instant. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. So they each deal damage equal to their power to the other one, and it happens at the same time. And then you also get to create a treasure token. So this is nice. This is pretty cool. Generally, I'd say you prefer to have bite effects rather than fight effects. Bite effects just have your creature deal its damage to the other creature, whereas this, they trade damage. But sometimes it doesn't matter. If you have a big enough creature, and you're in green, so you probably do, you're happy to just fight it, and then you take their creature off the board, and then you get to swing in. And it's nice that you kind of get paid back a little bit by putting the treasure token. And this has instant speed. All those things together make for a pretty solid card. It's not the best one of these effects. I think Bushwhack is still probably a little bit better. That's at sorcery speed, and you either get to fight or you get to go find a basic land and put it into your hand. And I think that kind of utility makes that a little bit better than Prize Fight. But Prize Fight's still a totally fine card. I'm honestly surprised I don't see it more in Pauper, because I think it just kind of does work. I'll give this a 5. I think you could 100% put this in a Pauper deck, and it would work. It would work for you quite well. So I'll give it a 5. Moving on, got a couple more cards today. We got Scar from Shadowmoor, which is a hybrid black or red mana. So you can pay a black, you can play a red. Got to pay one of those though, for an instant, and you put a -1/-1 counter on a target creature. This is not good enough. You'd probably just rather shock the creature or lightning bolt the creature and get it out. You'd rather use Stab that does -2/-2. But this being a counter is interesting. If you have ways of proliferating, um, but no, no, you're not going to play this. There's just other effects that work a whole lot better, and a single -1/-1 counters not really enough. It's kind of nice that if you hamstring an opponent's Cryptic Serpent or something, okay, well now it's a 5/4 instead of a 6/5. You're still probably dying to it. So a little underwhelming. We will give it a 1.7. Pride Guardian is our final card of the day to start this week. It's a single white mana for a cat monk that has got Defender, and whenever this creature blocks, you gain 3 life. This is okay. This is okay. I think you're going to find you'd rather have something a little bit more aggressive on turn 1, especially in a white deck. I mean, not that you're necessarily playing Savannah Lions in Pauper either, but having something that has, an extra point of power on it, maybe, or a point of power on it. This is a 0 power card. But just think about it, though. You have a 0/3. It blocks quite a bit of stuff. It blocks early goblins. It blocks pretty much anything on the ground for the first couple turns of the game. And your opponent's just not going to attack you. Because why would they? They wouldn't do any damage and you gain 3 life. So, honestly, this isn't really a card where you're thinking, oh, this is life gain. Because you're not going to find an opponent that attacks into this. But also, you're not going to find an opponent that attacks into this. You're kind of guaranteeing yourself a couple turns to set up, unless the opponent's got flyers or something like that. But you do buy yourself a little bit of time with this. And if your opponent does come in with a big 4 power creature or something like that, okay, you get the trade. Well, not a trade. You chump block. But even the chump block's a little bit more beneficial because you do gain the life. Even if that thing had trample or something, you are gaining the life, so you're able to mitigate a little bit of damage there. This is totally fine. I just think that generally you won't find it advancing your game much. And again, in Pauper, you do kind of want to advance the game early and often. That is kind of the name of the game, to accrue that value over time. And the earlier you start, the more you get. And so I guess this protects you being able to play some 2-drop stuff and maybe set up a little bit against a really aggressive deck. Maybe this is like a sideboard piece that you could put in. But I think you're going to find that there are better options than this if you do want to go that route. But I think this is totally playable. I think this is a 4, and I would be interested to see somebody make a deck that utilizes Pride Guardian, because I think it's cool. I like the art. I like this big cat. Anyway, that is enough for this. Happy Monday to you, and we'll see you tomorrow with more common knowledge. Bye.